Saying yes isn't always kindness. Sometimes it's just fear wearing a really good disguise. Think about the last time you said yes to something you really didn't want to do. The favor you were annoyed about the whole time, the plan you were dreading before it even started, the extra work you took on when you were already totally burnt out. You weren't being kind in that moment. You were just trying to make a bad feeling go away. Today, we're going to talk about why that keeps happening, the real reason, not the surface stuff. And then we're going to talk about what you can actually do to stop it, not just say no advice. Real, useful stuff that makes sense when you hear it. First, if you say yes way more than you want to, I need you to hear this. There is nothing wrong with you. You're not weak, you're not too soft, you're not broken. You just learned a very specific habit, probably a long time ago, and your brain has been running that habit on repeat ever since. And here's why we're going to talk about the why before the how to fix it. Because if you just try to force yourself to say no without understanding what's going on inside your head, it won't stick. It'll feel like trying to hold your breath. You can do it for a little while, but eventually you cave. Understanding why is what makes the change actually last. So let's go all the way back to where this started. Okay, I want you to picture something. You're a kid, maybe 7 years old, maybe 9, and you're slowly figuring out how the world works, especially how the people in your world work. And without anyone sitting you down and explaining it, you start to notice a pattern. When you go along with things, when you're easy, agreeable, helpful, the people around you are happy. They smile, they're warm, things feel good. But when you push back, when you say no or disagree or just want something different, the energy shifts. Someone gets quiet or annoyed or cold, and that feels unsafe. Nobody had to say it out loud, you just felt it over and over again until your brain built a rule. Going along equals safe. Pushing back equals something bad might happen. Now, nothing scary has to have happened to you for this to be true. It doesn't take a big dramatic story. Maybe it was a parent who went quiet when you disagreed with them. Maybe it was a friend group that only liked you when you went along with everything. Maybe it was just a classroom where the easy, agreeable kids got more love. Whatever it was, your brain picked it up. And your brain is really, really good at learning patterns fast. Here's the thing about your brain. It's basically a very fast learning machine whose whole job is to keep you safe. And once it learns something keeps you safe, it holds on to that thing tight. So it made a rule, and it's been following that rule ever since. Scientists have a name for what happens when that rule kicks in. It's called the Fawn response, and it's probably the one survival response nobody ever told you about. You've heard of fight or flight, right? When something scary happens, you either fight back or you run. Most people know those two. But there are actually 4 responses, and the 4th one is fawn. When you fawn, you don't fight, you don't run, you don't even freeze. You shrink, you smile, you agree, you make yourself as easy and harmless as possible because some deep part of your brain thinks that's how you stay safe. And here's the part that's kind of mind-blowing. This response is so fast that your thinking brain doesn't even get a vote. By the time the smart, thoughtful part of your brain wakes up and asks, wait, do I actually want to do this? Your mouth has already said yes. It's not a choice in that moment. It's more like a reflex, not a character flaw. A learned reflex. Big difference. 2 things happen at the same time, and they're both pulling hard. Okay, so let's zoom in on the exact moment someone asks you for something, and you feel that sinking feeling but say yes anyway. 2 things are happening at the same time inside your head. Thing 1, the reward. When you help someone and they smile at you and go, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much, you're the best," your brain gets a little hit of a chemical called dopamine. It's the same feeling you get when you eat your favorite food or when your phone buzzes with a nice message. It just feels good. And over time, your brain starts connecting that good feeling to being needed, being liked, being enough. So slowly, without you realizing it, your good feelings about yourself start depending on other people's reactions to you. It's not, I feel good because of who I am. It becomes, I feel good because of how they just looked at me. That's a really shaky place to live because you've basically handed the remote control to your own happiness over to other people. Thing two, the fear. At the same moment your brain is chasing that good feeling, it's also running a very fast, very dramatic little movie in your head of what happens if you say no. It goes something like this. If I say no, they'll be annoyed. If they're annoyed, they won't like me as much. If they don't like me, they might leave, or they'll think I'm a bad person, or they'll tell other people. Now, will any of that actually happen? Probably not. But the fear your brain creates around just imagining it feels completely real. And fear feels like danger. And when something feels like danger, your brain has one goal: make the danger stop as fast as possible. And the fastest way to make it stop? Say yes. So the yes isn't really about wanting to help. It's about escaping two very uncomfortable feelings, the fear of rejection and the craving for approval at the exact same time. The yes stops feeling like a choice. It starts feeling like the only way out. Here's what I really want you to think about. Every single time you say yes when you mean no, it's like adding a tiny drop of water to a bucket you carry everywhere. You can't really feel one drop. You can't even feel 10. You still look totally fine on the outside. Helpful, easy to get along with, reliable. But that bucket gets heavier, drop by drop, every week, every month. And at some point, it gets really heavy. And you start feeling it as this low, quiet resentment. Not always at the people you said yes to. Sometimes it turns inward, at yourself. Why do I always do this? Why can't I just say no like a normal person? But here's the part I think is actually the most important. When you spend a long time, months, years, constantly shaping yourself around what everyone else wants, you start to lose track of what you want. Not all at once, slowly. Your opinions start to feel uncertain. Your preferences get blurry. Someone asks, "What do you want to do?" And there's just this pause, because you've spent so long asking what do they want that your own answer went quiet. You didn't lose yourself on purpose. You just kept putting everyone else first for so long that your own voice got smaller and smaller. And the exhaustion that comes from living that way, it's not the tiredness of doing too much. It's the specific, draining tiredness of never being fully yourself, of always performing, always watching how you're landing, always being switched on for everyone else and switched off for you. All right, now that we actually understand what's going on, let's talk about what to do about it. I'm going to be straight with you. This isn't the 1-week fix. This pattern took years to build. It's not going anywhere in a weekend, but you can start loosening it right now with small moves that build on each other over time. Step 1. Buy yourself a pause. The reason you say yes so fast is because your body reacts before your brain can think. So your one job is to slow that down just a little, just enough to let your brain catch up. Next time someone asks you something, try this. Let me check and get back to you. That's the whole move. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to justify it. You just buy yourself some time. Because the pause, that little gap between the ask and your answer, is where your actual choice lives. Step 2. Check your body before you answer. Before you even think about the words, notice what's happening inside you. Is your stomach dropping? Is your chest getting tight? Is there a little feeling somewhere? That's not a signal to say yes. That's your body telling you something important. When you can notice it and name it, okay, that's the fear of saying no, not an actual reason to say yes, it loses some of its grip on you. You're not just reacting anymore. You're noticing. Step 3. Start with tiny no's. Don't start with the hardest conversation you've been putting off for 2 years. Start embarrassingly small. The wrong coffee order, a movie you don't want to watch, a plan you'd rather skip. Just try, actually, I'd prefer. That's practice. You're training your brain to learn, through actual experience, that saying no doesn't cause disaster, that people don't fall apart, that the world keeps going. Every small no plants a tiny seed of proof that the old rule your brain wrote isn't fully true anymore. Step 4. Learn the difference between someone being disappointed and something being dangerous. This is probably the biggest one. When you say no and someone looks a little disappointed, that's uncomfortable, but it's not dangerous. It just feels dangerous because your brain learned to treat it that way when you were little, and approval actually was connected to safety. You're not little anymore. You can handle someone being temporarily bummed out. You've survived it before, and if the relationship is real, it can survive it too. So here's a simple version of everything we just covered. You can't say no because your brain learned a long time ago, when it was just trying to keep you safe, that going along with people means safety and pushing back means danger. Then it built a whole reward system around getting approval that keeps that loop running. And over time, the cost of that is resentment, exhaustion, and slowly losing the thread of who you actually are. But none of that is permanent. It's a pattern, and patterns can change. Not all at once, not perfectly, but little by little, one pause, one small no, one moment of noticing, it starts to shift. You're not a people pleaser because something's wrong with you. You're just someone whose brain got really good at one way of staying safe, and you're ready for a better way now. If any of this felt close to home, drop it in the comments. Tell me one situation where saying no feels almost impossible for you. I'm genuinely curious. And honestly, reading those comments always reminds me I'm not the only one dealing with this stuff. Maybe it'll do the same for you.